So a short brief about evolution. We are a very diverse team. As you can see, 52% of the company held by women position. We have over 7 years of experience, and basically it's since Horizon 2020 was started. So it positioned us in a very good position, and we have more than 400 projects across Europe and Israel. So when we speak about the Horizon Europe, we speak about the three main pillars. I will touch today pillar number 3, but it's also worth mentioning that in pillar number 2, we have specific topics that address climate, energy, and mobility, as you can see, and those are collaboratives usually. We are here today, we will touch the EIC, the European Innovation Council, with a budget of 9.7 billion for 7 years. Basically, it's 1.4 billion a year. So if we speak about the EIC Accelerator, the EIC, the European Innovation Council, it contains 3 main instruments for funding opportunities. I will show you now the numbers of companies, and actually we see the top 3 funded industries all across the EIC, the Horizon Europe. So we can see that health in first place, but energy with 922 companies got funded, and basically it's projects. So it's 922 projects. It could be more than a company. So when we can see the Horizon Europe, we understand that the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, are here, and the Horizon Europe program is supposed to be aligned with those SDGs, and especially with an energy-driven impact. So when we can understand those SDGs and understand the Green Deal, that it's also part of the Horizon Europe, the general, and also there's a small part within the EIC Accelerator that belongs also to the Green Deal. So there are many funds that will allocate to energy-related topics down the years. So when we speak about the Horizon program in general, about the European Union, we understand that they have a very specific way to demonstrate the current status of technology. It's called TRL, and the technology readiness level start within 0 to 9. When we can understand that between 1 to 4, it's for low TRL, and actually for proof of idea. Later on, we can see around TRL 5 and 6 that we have some more prototypes, and it's for a largest and biggest R&D. So this is the main issue that the European Union is addressing, and basically it's to close the gap between the Death Valley curve and the market, and to shrinking it and give those funds. So when we speak about the technology readiness level, we understand that the 3 main funding schemes are basically Pathfinder, TRL 1 to 4, up to 3 million euros for open call, and 4 million for challenge. And we can see that here it's 100% funding. So I don't think there's any competitiveness to such a very good instrument. After that, we can see the transition. Transition, it's a program that stays within the EIC Accelerator and the Pathfinder, but you can only submit to the transition if you are a FET funded project. FET belongs to the Horizon 2020 programs, but also now we will have more and more FET along the years. Pathfinder, as we can see, it's the first program, TRL 1 to 4. With the transition that it's TRL 3 or 4 to 6, so basically it takes you up to a commercial POC. So this is the gap in between those major program, the Pathfinder and the accelerator. The EIC accelerator, known formally as the SME instrument, was the flagship of the EIC, of the European Innovation Council. We can see here that we have a split mechanism between grant and equity investment. So basically, when we speak about the grant, we can get up to 2.5 million euros in pure grant and another up to 15 million euros in equity funding. We'll touch those points later. I just want to to demonstrate that the EIC accelerator is part of the execution from the proof of concept to the end of the pre-commercialization activities around TRL 8-9. So Pathfinder, some keynotes about the Pathfinder. We're supposed to demonstrate in Pathfinder a groundbreaking research principle. So basically, the most innovative technology and disruptive technology in general could take part in the EIC Pathfinder. We have the open and the challenge. The challenge will be specifically for energy and health, and I will explain it later on. So we speak about high risk and high gain. An interdisciplinary center. The EIC Pathfinder is a consortium based. So basically, in order to submit to the Pathfinder, you need at least 2 more entities from 2 different European or associated countries to the European Union. This is why it should be interdisciplinary, so it can contain many activities of R&D. As we spoke on the EIC transition, like I explained at the beginning, only FET projects that funded at 8-2020 and now will be eligible to submit to the transition, alongside with the Pathfinder call that it's totally new and will be only from two weeks from now, it will be the first application. So for the Pathfinder, we also speak about the vision for radically new technology. It should be create a new market or open new markets or disruptively change the current market. So basically, it's the same roadmap of new disruptive technologies from Pathfinder to Accelerator in order to execute technological projects, highly technological projects. Okay, so we speak about the EIC Accelerator. Like I said at the beginning, this is the flagship of the European Union, the EIC. It's a bottom-up call. Bottom-up, it's like every deep technology should be fit for the EIC Accelerator. And as we can see, it helps us skipping over the valley of death. So basically, the death valley curve, it's one of the main problems for startups from POC to market. The European Innovation Council willing to filling that gap with the 2.5 million for grant, and then for the implementation, another up to 15 million euros for the same market implementation. So the EIC Accelerator agenda, it's like I explained already, and this is like the major, it's the key elements of this program. It's a high risk innovation of all kind and creating a deep tech innovation. Surely for the rapid scale up with the equity component. Alongside all those activities, I can explain you that the business acceleration services are given by the EU once you like put your leg within the program and submitted for at least the short application. So we'll touch later on. And the policy objective, over 90% addressing sustainable development goals. We all know that energy-related topics, it count on those 90%, and we can see that the Sustainable Development Goals and specific energy-related, it's a very big part of these funding programs. So a balanced portfolio, it's also something of the European Union decided that achieving a balanced portfolio across geographical regions, and at least 35% of EIC portfolio companies led by women. It's also something completely new. It was last year at the pilot program, and now we experience that the numbers got higher, and 35% for EIC portfolio. It's a very good opportunity for women founders. So when you speak about the eligibility criteria for the EIC accelerator, it's supposed to be around TRL 6. As we can see at the right side of the screen, technology readiness in technology demonstrated in relevant environment. So basically we speak about POC within his environment. With some other general or more conceptual topics, it could also count as end of TRL 5, but we'll touch it later. At least 18 months from full commercialization and being an SME. I will give the slide later on, and you can also use it for your own will. Okay, so necessary for success, it's not mandatory by the EIC, but it's something that we summarize for the past year that we have. So first in class, disruptive, like I explained before, market creating, high scale-up potential, the need for substantial funding. So even now, we speak about projects that are very high risk and demanding a huge amount of capital in order to execute. So the European Union, the EIC, is understand this situation and willing to close this gap. Sure, we speak about commercial execution and top-notch team with the option to have this execution. So the EIC accelerator, we have the option to go on grant only or for the blended finance. The blended finance means that it's a grant plus equity. There are many ways to look at it, and there's some even 4 opportunities within the same EIC accelerator. Grant only, grant first, equity, blended finance. So we have a mixed and blended options in order to be agile and to fit specifically for a young organization, startups, SMEs, and micro startups. So how much money I can request as equity? So the objective of equity finance is to provide the means for rapid scale up. So we speak about the option to have that scalable technologies. The equity, it's from $500,000 to 15 million. And like I wrote here at the slide, the equity will not exceed of 25%. So what does it mean? When you think about how much equity I want to give in order to get the investment from the European Union, you should bear in mind that the equity the EIC is willing to give will not exceed 25%. So just to summarize a bit, it was the general information about Horizon Europe, and specifically for the Horizon for the EIC, European Innovation Council. Now we'll have the deep dive. Into Jonathan, and I will introduce Jonathan. Jonathan is part of my team. He is based in Madrid. Jonathan is a senior project manager and a mechanical engineer. I will give him the stage, and thank you very much all. Hello, Jonathan.
Okay. Yes, I'm here. I'm here, Nimrod. Yes. So, sorry, I joined a little bit late.
No.
Thank you for that introduction. So, 10 minutes, right, Nimrod, is what I'm
Yes.
aiming for here.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thanks. Well, let me say welcome everybody. Thanks for coming or joining the session today. Nimrod has asked me to get involved to explain some of the projects, some of the programs, but specifically how they more relate to energy projects. I know that's the focus that you guys have, and in fact, I believe that at Evolution Europe, we've worked with some of the members of your group in the past. Um, so I'm just going to touch on the programs and how they are most relevant to you in the energy sector. So Nimrod mentioned that I think in most of these programs, we have open and challenge topics or deadlines, if you like. And this is something that works kind of well for you guys because the challenge, when we talk about the challenge topics, they're specifically targeting priorities for the European Commission and sustainable energy and energy conservation, uh, green energy. All of these things are priorities for the European Commission. So within each of the programs, we find that there are deadlines which are probably quite well suited to what you guys are doing. In that case, sometimes it might pay, rather than just presenting your project to the first available deadline, waiting for another deadline, which is perhaps better suited to your project. But that's something that we can advise you on at Evolution if we start to work together. So the first project we have here is the Pathfinder scheme. If you could, thanks Nimrod. Okay, so as Nimrod mentioned, this is for low level TRL. So this is for projects which are still very much in an R&D type phase. Within the challenge, the challenges are slightly different to the open category, which is interesting for you guys. You can have a consortium project for which you need only 2 members, but then depending on the topic, you might also be able to present it as a single entity. Those entities are limited to being sort of more startups, SMEs, research organizations. Larger companies are not eligible to make a single beneficiary application here, but I don't think that affects you guys. Because this is more of a priority for the European Commission, there's more money on this one. The challenge call here has up to 4 million euros compared to the open call, which is only 3 million euros. And here you can see these are the 5 areas that the European Commission are highlighting for the Pathfinder Challenge. The one that's most relevant to you guys here is number 4, novel routes to green hydrogen production. Awareness inside, you'd need to look into more detail to what each of these topics are. But then again, I don't know if these ones are most relevant to you guys because, as I say, these projects are quite low technical readiness. They are very much R&D based projects. The next stage is the transition program. This also has open and challenge. Okay, these projects can be presented alone or as part of a consortium. However, the idea of these projects is that they're coming from some other program which has been funded by the European Commission. So we're talking about Pathfinder projects or FET projects, which are sort of the predecessor to the Pathfinder. In this one, the target category, the topic that they're focusing for the challenge is this one, energy harvesting and storage. Okay, so this diagram here sort of shows you what kind of topics we might be looking at there. Now, because we're in the transition stage, we've moved beyond those very low technical readiness levels. These projects also start to include some part of the business development as well. So as part of the outcome of this project, they want to see a business plan and a business model. But like I say, these are really only interesting for you if you're coming from one of those other programs. The next one is the one that I'm certainly more familiar with and I can tell you more about, is the EIC Accelerator. You'll have to forgive me if I'm a bit sketchy on a few details because the program is still fairly new. We've had a big change for this year and some of the information has only come out fairly recently. But so the EIC Accelerator started life previously as the SME instrument. Then what happened last year was when they first brought it in as the EIC Accelerator, they introduced something which was the Green Deal deadline. So what we had now, instead of having an open program for any type of technology, they had one deadline last year, in May of last year, which was specifically targeting topics related to the European Green Deal. That was very interesting for energy projects. What we saw there was, whereas before that Green Deal, we were seeing about 1,800 applications per deadline. For that May deadline, which was specifically the Green Deal, there were 2,100 applications. So now those Green Deal ones were not exclusively energy, they related to certain other areas as well. Like, for example, there was one topic related to food production, or sustainable food production, and things like that. But it's interesting to see that even around these challenge calls, where there's these specific deadlines, there's a lot of project out there. And so this is something that I would highlight for you guys, okay? The European Commission has made a priority of energy and clean energy, sustainability, but there's a lot of project out there. And the main thing about the EIC Accelerator is they want to see projects that are really innovative, that are disruptive, and they want to see projects that have a high degree of risk. The idea is that this funding is for those companies that have great technology and can't get the money from somewhere else, mostly because of their associated risk. Just a second. Just go back a second, Nimrod. Well, one moment, please. Sorry about that. Within the new EIC Accelerator program, there are open calls and challenge calls. Okay, and within the challenge calls, it's not very specific. There's the term they use is Green Deal innovations for the economic recovery. But what they have said is that within the projects that are getting funded under this category of the challenge calls, these they want to see 50% of the projects that are related to batteries or other energy storage, green hydrogen. They use the term renovation, but they're talking about the building efficiency, heating, cooling, maintenance of buildings, particularly existing building stock, and also of low carbon industries. Okay, so we've got a deadline coming up in October where it will be possible to present EIC Accelerator programs to the challenge call. And so if you've got something that's related to these technologies, it could be a good fit for you guys. The key is going to be having the right technical readiness level. So what we want to be, where we want to be for the EIC Accelerator is we want to be at a prototype stage. We want to be at a prototype stage, but where there is still some technical development that you want to do. If you're in a situation where basically you consider that the technology is solved and you just need some money to do a really big pilot, that's a bit difficult because we want to see that element of technical development still being required. It's possible to go for those pilot projects and things like that. The equity financing is very interesting for that sort of thing, especially when you're talking about infrastructure that's going to have a useful life beyond the end of the project. Because the EIC Accelerator is intended to cover with the grant just the costs that you incur during the 2 years of your project. But if you're talking about doing a big installation that has a useful life beyond the end of the project and will continue to start to generate revenues and things like that, that's best financed using the equity portion because it's not really eligible for the grant. But this is something we can talk about more in the questions and answers, perhaps. Thanks, Nimrod. The next one is collaborative projects. Okay, so I won't spend too much time on this, but the European Commission has also collaborative projects. So these are designed to be done in consortia with different research centers, companies, etc., from around Europe. So you need to have a group of a consortium from different countries, different size companies, and they're targeting specific topics. So when they become available, they are published, and there will be a specific area that they're trying to focus on, a particular solution that they're trying to get. For example, here you have a list of 8 areas. These are all things related to the Green Deal, which the European Commission announced in December of 2019, I think. So these were the areas that were being covered. For example, when we had the EIC Accelerator Green Deal call in May of last year, they were all projects related to these 8 areas. So if you have something that's related to one of these areas, there may be a specific collaborative call which comes up, which could be interesting for you. The biggest challenge with those, in my experience, is being able to establish that consortium to be able to present it. But then what the next, that's all from me, right? Nimrod, is there another slide that I had to talk about?
That's all. It would be nice if you would stay with us also for
yes, of course.
the Q&A session.
Of course.
Now we'll have Eyal to speak about the general service and the VC matchmaking. Eyal is the general manager in Israel and in charge of all collaboration. So thank you, Eyal.
Okay, thank you both, Jonathan and Nimrod, for that great presentation. I hope everybody that the information was very clear, and of course we can also share the presentation later on and have all the information ready available for you. So just to say, and we've been working in Israel for the last 2.5 years. Both me and Nimrod are here in Israel, attending all the needs for Israeli clients. We have over 45 clients in Israel, all of the best deep tech companies in Israel. So if you ever need any recommendation or any transparency about our services, we're more than available. Important to say that we offer a no-cost free diagnostic on all projects for any interested company or founder. I'm very happy to put the technical team in Madrid ready available for your disposal to basically disambiguate any information that you might need to understand if the programs are relevant and if your chances of success are high enough to justify going for these grants, because they're quite time consuming and there's a lot of effort involved, and we really want to make sure that if we go for it, then we have a real chance of actually getting these funding. So just a general kind of statement. Specifically what we're doing alongside this, the Horizon proposal submission services, is an additional supplementary service involving matchmaking with VC networks in Europe and in the US. I know everybody has a lot of experience in Israel and a lot of connections in the VC world, but we have found it to be very useful because we get to know you and we get to know your project and your R&D needs to really be able to match you with the strategic investors that we know in Europe. And of course, any company that receives EU funding becomes a very attractive co-investment opportunity for VC matchmaking. As Nimrod mentioned, the blended finance is a really attractive opportunity where the European Investment Bank covers the equity proportion of your EIC proposal, but is very much interested in having a co-investor, mostly from Europe, but doesn't have to be, but most importantly from Europe, to co-invest with that blended finance, and actually for that investor to determine the valuation of the company. So this is quite in advanced stages, but we basically offer a matchmaking VC service, which we basically get your information and optimize any aspect of your VC approach, maybe through the evaluation of your current project team, etc. Then giving you a report of recommendation how to improve, and then help you throughout the investment round. So this is just a supplementary service that helps you in parallel to your non-dilutive public funding from the EU. Yeah, that's all for me. Nimrod, you can feel free to take it.
Yeah, so now we are on the Q&A. So I saw there's a few questions on the chat, but I would like to start now. If someone wants to speak. So if someone want to ask a question? Okay, so we'll touch the chat, the question from chat. 1 minute. Okay, so the first question is, can MNCs be partner in the consortium? So Jonathan, could you elaborate please with this question?
Okay, well, I made the note there that mid-caps, medium-sized companies, mid-caps can be eligible as consortium partners in the when we were talking about the Pathfinder projects. They're not able to present on their own. And if the question is more related though to where the company is established in terms of their eligibility for geographical purposes, as far as I know, as long as the company has a presence within the European Union from which they can participate in the project, then they can be included in a consortium. The issue with that is in terms of how it's consistent with the idea of the project as well, because if you have an office in Germany, for example, but they're just for selling product, it doesn't really fit within the work plan of the project that they're doing some part of the technical development. That's something to look at on a case-by-case basis. I hope that's answered the question. If not, please follow up. I'll do my best.
Okay, so do we have some more questions from the audience? I think it's a good opportunity to have a deep dive. So if everyone have a specific question, even with example about his project, maybe the project is still conceptual. So I think it's the time. So feel free. Thank you.
Yes, I can present a question or present a company and a question.
Sure, you can. Yes.
Okay, my name is Volodya Voronel. I lead the project which comes from the university. It is energy storage for stationary applications. We are at TRL 4. So it is very good to us to go to transition, but it's impossible to go to transition because to go to transition, we need a pathfinders, and my professor, he's a poor thing. He developed it not by European funding, but the Ministry of Energy from Israel. So from TR4 to TR6, we need to take the small demo we have in the laboratory to a big pilot. So what exists to do it? Because the topic is very popular. Energy, energy storage, new batteries, everybody wants it. The problem is, what is the mechanism I can use?
Okay. Well, I mean, as I mentioned, my expertise is more in the area of the EIC accelerator. So I would venture that what I have seen about the transition program, as you say, is it requires you to be coming from one of those other EIC programs, either the old FET program or the Pathfinder program. But if there's anybody on the commercial team that knows something different to me on that one, please please jump in. With respect to how you evaluate your TRL, I mean that's my question. When
We
you
have
say
a demo. We have a small demo in the laboratory. We have no pilot.
Yes, but depending on the state of development of that demonstration, we might be able to present that as a prototype. So I mean, and this is something, the way the TRL is defined by the European Commission is very broad, because obviously they're covering every different type of project, from medical devices to agriculture, engineering, energy, software. They're covering everything. So the key word for TRL 6, which is where we want to be for the accelerator program, is prototype. What's the difference between a demonstration and a prototype? I mean, to get up to TRL 6, we really want to be able to talk about a relevant environment. So perhaps something more than laboratory.
Reach it in 18 months. We need 24 months to build a big pilot, a serious pilot. So unfortunately, we can do it maybe in a year or in half a year, but not today. And still, we need funding now to reach that stage when we can apply.
Well,
but again, maybe there are other mechanisms.
So I think what Jonathan just explained, that maybe we will have a second call and we have this like reconsideration on TRL. It's not that you didn't identify it correctly. I think we just can help you justify maybe later TRL than 4. And for other programs, so on pillar number 2, you have cluster number 5, and cluster 5 is also specifically for energy and could be for energy storage too.
Great,
so
okay.
we can, my email is at the chat, so you can send me an email and we can have a further discussion.
Okay, great. Really, thank you.
Thank you very much. And I see here a question from Salih. Hi, Salih. Can Energy Tech SME with a technology not related to hydrogen production apply for EIC challenge? So it depends. If it's an EIC challenge for energy related and specifically for the hydrogen call, so no. The company should be submitting only to the open call for the EIC. And when we speak about the EIC challenge, you mean EIC Pathfinder challenge or accelerator? Because we speak about 3 different challenges. On each and every program, we have different challenges.
Actually, if I could just jump in there, Nimrod, that you bring up something interesting there that perhaps I didn't make clear. When we talk about these programs having open and challenge calls, it's not as though because you're energy, you have to go to the challenge. If the challenge isn't a good fit for your technology, or you don't want to apply for that one, you're also able to submit your project to the open call. which will accept energy projects, but in those calls, you're also sort of competing against everything else. But you're by no means excluded from those open calls. As Nimrod says, yes, all three programs that we've been talking about have a challenge aspect of them. I don't think that any of them are specific to hydrogen, are they? I think, in fact, there are other technologies included within those challenges rather than just hydrogen. Then, of course, if you're talking about one of the collaborative projects, for example, if the topic is specifically hydrogen, and clearly it doesn't make much sense to be applying for that program. But we have at Evolution, we have experience dealing with energy projects. We have dealt with things related to offshore wind. We've had vertical axis wind turbines. We've worked with cogeneration power plants. We've worked with a company that had a hydrogen transportation solution. We've worked with lots of different technologies in the area of energy.
So like Charlotte just mentioned, Charlotte's also working with us at Evolution. Charlie, it's the head of the commercial team. So Pathfinder, EIC Pathfinder is the only program specifically for hydrogen. So
Is it? Okay.
and on the fourth challenge at the EIC Pathfinder is specifically for hydrogen. For all the value chain in hydrogen energy. So we can speak about containers, storage, and in creating hydrogen itself for energy. Okay, guys, so we have more questions here in the audience. Maybe some other company would like to introduce themselves or ask any question. Igor, I saw that you wrote that there's other opportunities. So can you please explain us with which opportunities do you familiar? Okay.
One second. I'm on mute here.
Hmm.
Okay, so if anybody, I've been doing some research, a lot of research into funding opportunities in Europe, in EU especially, in the new program, and there are new calls which are not in the EIC challenge program. So if anybody interested to know about it better, they can contact me. I'm Igor. If they can contact me here or whatever. Igor Derzi.
So I wrote the other calls that you mentioned. It's cluster number 5.
Here I am. This is my picture. Okay. Hello.
The whole concept of collaboratives is just something that is very challenging because you have to find the right partners and you have to build a consortia. And this is something, and the consortium needs to make sense. So the reason the EIC is so attractive is because
Any more?
think
Yeah,
Nimrod and
okay.
Eyal are having some connection issues.
Yeah. Okay. Let's wait a little bit. I will say that again, I want to thank you, Jonathan and Nimrod and the others. Oh, okay. Thank you very much for coming. And if you have any other questions, you can send Nimrod an email with your questions or send it to us. Ignite Spark will be happy to help anyone who's looking for funding opportunities to get the right connections and information. Let's see if he got back. Okay, just a
I
second.
mean, I can jump in there a little bit about
Yeah, sure.
what I think Eyal was communicating, because I have personal experience of this, and there's a lot of those collaborative projects, and even to a certain extent, the Pathfinder projects, when they talk about a consortium, it looks like a very attractive opportunity, but establishing those consortia is quite challenging, because it's not sufficient that you have, you know, some company next door that you work with frequently and, hey, we'll just call ourselves a consortium. One of the conditions of the consortium is that you need to find partners from other countries within Europe, or the associated countries. And that sometimes is more challenging than it sounds. The other thing also is that the consortium is coherent with the idea of the project. We've seen, for example, a situation where you are developing the core of the technology, and so you get one of your suppliers who happens to be in another country and ask them to participate in the consortium so that you can do the project. It doesn't work, because the European Commission can see that the workload within that consortium is unbalanced, and so it makes it challenging then to have a successful project. So certainly the collaborative projects and the consortia projects are very interesting, but they're getting that team together, getting that consortium together is quite challenging.
Yes,
Nimrod,
yes, I'm here. I'm sorry, it was the connection. What can I say? The co-working place, it's always frustrating in the rush hour. I'm sorry.
okay, well, I was just explaining about the challenges related to establishing the consortia for those kind of collaborative projects.
Sure. Usually when we get the approach of companies that willing to find those government and the EU funding, they go on a very shorter route than creating and initiating a big consortium. So most of the companies is looking for real money at the moment. And sometimes to build those collaboration and to create the networking within the European Union and associated countries could take a few months. On the good, on like a very good case, we can have a complete consortium within 3 months. But still, we speak about the fact to be agile, to fit the EIC program, and specifically for the EIC accelerator, that we have seen that the numbers are growing from year to year. So the numbers of funded companies and the amount of funds that the EIC is taking for the accelerator program. Eyal, would you like to add something regarding the EIC in the past 2 years that you are working here in Israel?
No, I don't have a lot more to add to what this. I think we've kind of gone through the major points. I really do put an emphasis on the fact that a high quality diagnostic with a consultant that wants to save you the effort and time and make sure that you're on the right track is very important. There are numerous consultancies working in Israel and Europe as well. It is important to have a good team working with you on this, I would say. Yeah, I think if anybody has specific questions, that would be easier to address. In terms of saying something more specific, I think both what Jonathan and Nimrod presented was a very good overview. And I think that if you have any questions related to your ability to self-assess your project, that is to ask us questions about how to assess the stage you're in, or the criteria that you need to fit in order to submit to these programs, then feel free, because I really think that the best thing for you to come out of this session is to be able to self-assess your project, projects that you might be involved in, or future projects that you might initiate, as the Horizon Europe program with this EAC program, like Nimrod mentioned, 1.4 billion euros per year is extremely attractive, and having that knowledge about how to self-assess and really shape the project to be aligned with the EAC is something that will serve you, I think, significantly with the development of your company.
Yes. There are more questions. I left my email on the chat box, so everyone go ahead, feel free to send me a message. We can start with a very brief call. I want to say thanks to Yonit Zairi from Ignite the Spark. I want to say thank you for Eshel, co-founder of Ignite the Spark. They gave us the opportunity to reveal and to speak about those funding opportunities. Besides, I want to say thanks to Jonathan and Eyal from Evolution that took part in this webinar with me. So thank you all. Thank you very much. We are here to help you and assist with European funding. Have a nice day, and we'll speak soon.
Thank you very much, Nimrod. All the best, everyone.
Nimrod.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Thank you.